So sometimes it's giving people questions rather than answers. But we've become egocentric and egotistical in the Dawah because we think Dawah is about proving me right.
Okay.
If that's the case, then you're going to debate and argue.
So feeding our nafs and thinking we are giving Dawah basically.
Absolutely.
कहता हूँ सच कि झूठ की आदत नहीं मुझे। अस्सलाम वालेकुम दोस्तों, अजीज़ और रफ़ीक़ों, कैसे मिजाज हैं आपके? आज मेरे साथ जो हस्ती मौजूद है वो किसी तारुफ की मोहताज नहीं है। रद्द इल्हाद से मुताल्लिक इनका नाम इतना जाना पहचाना है कि शायद ही कोई दूसरा नाम इसका मुकाबला कर सके। हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं हमजा ज़ोर्ट्ज़िस। अस्सलाम वालेकुम हमजा।
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You have an amazing voice. Allahumma barik.
Jazakallah
May Allah bless you. MashaAllah.
This is one of the biggest compliment I'm getting from Hamza.
No, not at all. No, it's your voice. It's your voice. Alhamdulillah, it's beautiful.
Subhanallah, Hamza. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, can never complain.
Jazakallah khair for joining me in my channel.
No problem.
So tell me something about the atheism, honestly. Like the one thing which I really wanted to talk to you is about atheism in Pakistan. So I know that you have talked to countless people who are involved in atheism one way or other, the other shades like agnosticism, deism. But I want to know specifically about Pakistan, that how you differ the Pakistani atheist from the atheist in the West, probably. What your experience tell?
Okay, so I've been to Pakistan twice, I believe.
Yeah.
And I've traveled to Lahore, to Islamabad, to Rawalpindi, to Peshawar. I've been to Faisalabad. So I've been everywhere, right?
Not to Karachi?
I didn't go Karachi.
Not to my city. Not fair.
Inshallah, one day.
Yeah.
So, and I went to the kind of elite universities, the private universities, and I think colleges as well. And I engaged with people who had secular atheist inclinations.
I see.
And to be honest, I think one of the main reasons that atheism is growing in Pakistan is because, especially amongst the middle classes, right?
Yeah.
And the upper middle classes and the elite, is because for some reason the scholarly class, or at least the scholarly class that's promoted in Pakistan, has not revived the classical tradition and contemporized it in a way where our future intellectuals can understand.
Please elaborate.
And resonate with.
Please elaborate.
Well, for example, many of our ulama, may Allah bless them all, especially in Pakistan, they have a very good tradition. So they would study an amazing program. They'll study logic.
Yeah.
They'll study balagha, which is rhetoric. They'll study, the nuances of the Arabic language. They'll study Islamic thought, right? Theology. And they'll go through a lot of deep books. Now, they understand, and we understand as well, and we're their students, that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. The problem is that all the great concepts that the ulama in the past articulated and expressed, we have failed to apply in the contemporary world. And we have failed to do so in a way that's eloquent, in a way that is appealing. Because that's what the youth need. That's what the future intellectuals need. They need something that's appealing, that's based on their own reality. For example, you could read the works of Al-Ghazali, Tahafut al-Falasifa, the incoherence of the philosophers, and he could be talking about an amazing proof why Allah must be one, right? Now, it's a very complicated argument from the point of view if you were to try to understand it theologically, and all the kind of issues that were expressed at the time, and Al-Ghazali responding to them.
Yeah.
I'm just paraphrasing. There's lots of discussions in his, not this work, but in other works too. You could even go to Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, and the way he addresses some of the philosophers, some of the logicians, how he addresses the whole issue of, the idea of best of possible worlds, the idea of, why is there even a suffering in the world, the understanding of divine wisdom, and all of this stuff. So the thing is, we could go into that tradition, but if we just memorize it and just read it, but not understand it conceptually, then we're not able to articulate it. That's the problem. And I think our studies of Islam has just been memorization, not internalization of the fundamental idea or concept. Because if you understand the concept properly, you're able to apply it in your own language in a way that people understand, and in a way that is eloquent, and in a way that can connect with other people. And I think that has been the failing of maybe our scholarly class, or even our communities. So when someone's growing up in, middle class Pakistan, upper middle class Pakistan, then they're going to face a problem because they're not going to have answers.
But now we have noticed that many scholars actually discourage asking questions. So if somebody goes to them and asks the question,
that's a shame. Well, this is a problem because human beings, we have a need to feel certain, to have certainty. This is part of social psychology. It's called informational social influence. So if I need to feel certain and I'm not getting certainty from my main group, I'm going to go to other groups or other subgroups or other dominant groups or other groups that are competing with other groups to find that type of certainty. So say, for example, I'm a Pakistani in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I have questions about my faith because I've read something online, or I read a book, or I studied philosophy 101 at a private university. I still have Iman, I'm connected, but I have questions. I go to my Iman or my Imam, and I go to, a scholar or student of knowledge, and they just say, go away, right?
Yeah, this says that you'll go out of the bound of Islam.
Yeah,
your
so
nikah
the problem with this is that's not dealing with the need to feel certain.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do, they're going to try and find the answers elsewhere. Now, if a subgroup, say a secular atheist subgroup in Pakistan, gives them answers, maybe false, but gives them a sense of certainty, psychologically they're going to adopt that tradition or that group, or they're going to join that group. So in many ways, it's reap what you sow. Unfortunately, don't get me wrong. A lot of the cases, I think many atheists in Pakistan, they suffer from psychodynamic or psychological issues. I don't mean to say that they have a kind of spiritual disease or anything, but just from experience. So when you engage with them, they may come to you. Great example. I had a Pakistani atheist come to see me after university lecture, and I'm paraphrasing the story. It was a while ago, but you get the gist of it. He basically said, Hamza, your argument for God's existence doesn't make sense because causality can't exist outside of the universe. And obviously he had a metaphysical presupposition. He's an empiricist from that point of view. He thinks causality is derived from your experiences, but there's lots of great philosophical and conceptual arguments to argue the other way around, that you need causality before you understand any experience, because you will never be able to understand the relation between one experience and another. You won't be able to understand when in one scenario you can order and reorder your perceptions, and in another scenario you can't order your perceptions. I think this is a Kantian argument. So you could say it's a priori, it's prior to experience. Why do you have that metaphysical baggage? Why do you have the first principle of no, causality can only be derived through your experiences?
So you're starting with the assumption.
I could have went into that debate.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing, the contentious issue here, but I could have went into that debate, but I didn't. Because we have to become intellectually and more spiritually mature to understand that many times, even when people have an intellectual question, it doesn't mean they require an intellectual answer. Because if you give them the answer, they'll give you another question. Because something else is happening inside. Like, as you know, the human being has a fitrah, has an innate natural disposition, and it has forms of knowledge: proto-knowledge, primary knowledge, whatever you want to call it. And that knowledge is basically three things: that Allah is a reality, He's worthy of extensive praise, worthy of worship, and basic morality. But our fitrah gets clouded based on the authentic tradition, Sahih Muslim. Your parents change, the parents change the child, and it gets clouded. So there are different ways of unclouding the fitrah to awaken the truth within. We always focus on intellectual stuff as if the human being is just a functional computer model that you type in an algorithm, you're going to get change. This is an immature and unintellectual way of dealing with the human being, because Allah knows the human being better than we do. And Allah created the human being, yes, with an aql, the intellect, but the intellect is a function of the qalb, the heart. And we have a ruh, we have a nafs, we have a fitrah, we have all of these things, and they are at a dynamic interplay. So address the human being as the human being is. Why do you think you'd have to give him some kind of abstract rational argument? So I assessed him somewhat, and I thought, you know what? I don't think this question is an excuse for his kind of atheism. So what did I say to him? I said, what do you mean by causality?
So you ask him the definition, okay?
Of course.
Hmm.
Because it was my way of trying to see if it's something other than an intellectual reason.
Yeah.
To cut a long story short, he said, I don't know. Because I explained to him, like in Western metaphysics, Western philosophy, there's no consensus on causality. What kind of causality are you adopting? Atemporal causality, simultaneous causality, causality based on probabilities. There's different ideas of the causal relation. What is the causal link? So he said, I don't know. I said, isn't it very interesting that you're using a keyword in a sentence to deny Allah as an argument to deny Allah, but you don't know. But you don't know the meaning of the key word.
Subhanallah.
And I was like, what's wrong? So we sat down, connected as human beings, tried to uncloud his fitrah. I know the intellectual thing is not really the cloud. Behind that is something more psychological, spiritual even. To cut long story short, he confirmed and said to me, I didn't really connect with Allah. I couldn't connect in the prayer, or he hardly prayed.
Subhanallah. So the khushu was missing.
Well, even understanding of what salah is, I would even argue even understanding why Allah is worthy of worship, right? So that intellectual question wasn't really the concern, a massive concern for him, because he didn't even know the meaning of the sentence that he was articulating anyway. For him, it was something else.
So you can answer him rationally, but you choose not to.
No, because you think that you have to be mature. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say here is,
case,
but this is an example. It's case in point. It's an example that many, not just Pakistanis, but many human beings, when they deny Allah or they move away from Islam, a lot of the cases, in my experience, is as a result of something else. And the intellectual stuff or the questions come sometimes later. That's not always the case, because we should answer the questions if we feel it will provide, some kind of certainty. But sometimes it's not giving him an answer. Sometimes it's giving him a question. Or getting him or she to think about something in a different way. Because your job is not to give a hungry person fish all the time. You're going to run out of fish. Teach him how to fish. So sometimes you teach them how to ask the right questions. The Quran gives us questions, sometimes doesn't give us direct answers. Allah is teaching us how to think. But for example, even about God's existence, Allah says, chapter 52, verse 35 to 36, did you come from nothing? Did you create yourself? Did you create the heavens and the earth?
So it makes you think.
Indeed, you have no certainty. I mean, there is no direct answer. Okay, it's implied, but it's getting you to think.
Yes.
And I remember I actually used the structure of this argument to an atheist in Qatar, a Chinese atheist who was running his own shop there or something, mobile phone or electronic shop or something. And I just asked him these questions, and he moved from an atheist to a skeptic to a deist, just by these questions.
All those ones.
Basically, that was the structure of my kind of argumentation. So sometimes just giving people questions rather than answers. But we've become egocentric and egotistical in the Dawah because we think Dawah is about proving me right.
Okay.
If that's the case, then you're going to debate and argue.
So feeding our nafs and thinking we are giving Dawah, basically.
Absolutely. But if you really care about the human being and you want to uncloud the fitrah, you have to ask yourself the question as someone who's calling them to Allah. How, in this person's context and reality, and with all the variables at play, how do I uncloud that person's fitrah? And if you listen with the intention to understand, you may realize, you know what? I have an answer to that question, but I don't think he needs an answer. I think he needs pizza. So I think he needs pizza. Maybe you need to engage with them positively. Maybe you should say to them, you know what? I'm really sorry. The Pakistani media, they create this polarization between a secular, handsome academic and someone who is fat, overweight, and comes from the scholarly tradition and can't articulate themselves. And they can't contemporize the tradition in a way that is accessible and in a way that connects with you. That's what they do usually. I don't know if you've seen this before. You'll have a Professor Hoodboy type, relatively handsome, clean shaven, professor, this, that, and the other, against someone who can't really articulate themselves. He's doing his best. He may be really sincere. He doesn't look 100%, aesthetic. Obviously that's relative term, but you get my point. Yeah. So me being a middle class Pakistani, want to be educated and having pressure from my parents to be educated and upper class. Yeah. The problem is I'm gonna pick the one that I could resonate more with. Do you see?
I understand.
So the media is feeding them this false narrative, but there's so many Pakistani intellectuals, so many Pakistani students of knowledge, so many Pakistani ulama who are entrenched in the usuli tradition, in a classical tradition, that have the answers and can contemporize them. We just have to find platforms for these people.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
One thing I get from
people like you, bro. Allahu Akbar.
Jazakallah khair, inshallah. One of the things which I got from your argument, what you were explaining right now, is that actually to give dawah, you should have a love for the person you are giving dawah to.
Well, I say
Am I
this
right?
all the time. You know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, which is narrated by Bukhari, and it's in the Arba'in of An-Nawawi. It's the 13th hadith in An-Nawawi. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. You won't truly believe unless you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Akhihi here means Muslim brotherhood, but it also means human brotherhood. And Nawawi himself explained this to mean, this means insaniya. And what does love for humanity mean? It means love goodness for them and love guidance for them. And your Muslim brother, love goodness for him and love guidance for him. And another scholar, I think he was a Maliki scholar, his name was Ibn Taqiq al-Eid. He basically said the same thing, it means humanity. Now this echoes another hadith that people don't even know about. And I get accused for misquoting. It's an authentic Sahih hadith narrated by Bukhari, and it's in Tarikh al-Kabir. The Prophet ﷺ said, love for, so linnas, what you love for yourself. Arabic, li and nas, the possessive. Humanity, for the people, what you love for yourself. The wording is not akhihi, your brother, it's linnas, right?
Subhanallah.
So that is the foundational position that we have when we're engaging with anyone.
To have love.
Yes. To love, guidance and goodness for them. And if you don't have that from the beginning,
and this is missing,
you should not do dawah, in my view. If you don't have that from the beginning, you shouldn't do dawah. Because this is the prophetic way. Look at his psychological state. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet that you're almost going to kill yourself from anxiety. Right? That basically that they weren't listening to his message, or they weren't becoming believers, or whatever the case may be. That's the meaning here. The psychology of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also Allah says it was out of Allah's mercy that they didn't run away from you. Right? Because he was soft and kind. Allah was talking about how, soft and kind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is and was, right? So you could mirror the meaning. If he was harsh, they would have run away. Right?
True.
So, and even look at Musa alayhi salam when he spoke to Fir'aun. What did Allah say? He says, speak like layyina to Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam spoke to Fir'aun. Fir'aun was one of the worst creatures to walk on this planet. But Allah tells him to speak softly and mildly to him. Al-Qurtubi in his tafsir, he basically says that, and I'm paraphrasing, if Musa alayhi salam had to speak to Fir'aun this way, then imagine how we must speak to other people. As one scholar said, you're not a Moses and he's not a Pharaoh. So relax. Don't get me wrong, if you follow the narrative of Musa alayhi salam in the same story, then he gets a little bit harsher with his words. You're going to hell now. But the thing is, what's the starting point? Do you see?
Yes.
And this shows a lot. It shows that our tradition is based on moral variables. You can't say, here's a situation, give me an answer. If someone gives you an answer without understanding the moral variables, they're not a scholar, and they're someone who shouldn't be taken seriously when it comes to Islam. Because they should ask, well, what are the variables? Has he heard Islam before? For example, how was he brought up maybe? Or, what has he said about Islam? What's his character like? Is he in a position of leadership? Does he have Muslim friends and family? So many different questions. These are just hypothetical questions, but you have to assess the moral variables. But the starting point is always rahmah and mercy and love for others what you love for yourself.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah
very
khair. One last thing.
Of course.
Give some message to all the Pakistanis specifically.
Yeah.
I know that you can give it to all Muslims, but I want you to give some specific advice to the Pakistanis, Muslims, the youngsters.
Yeah.
They ask questions, but I feel that they don't research in the same way.
Okay, there's a few things I would like to say. To the Pakistani atheists, I do empathize. You come from a kind of social environment that maybe has facilitated you moving away from Islam based on your need to feel certain and based on your need to belong. But what I would advise them is, don't be duped, right? We have a rich tradition. We are standing on the shoulders of giants. You have to speak to the right people. And the onus is on you to start searching for these people. And don't allow this to basically be the cause of your destruction. because sometimes I notice some of these people, they claim they're intellectual, but they're very shallow. They haven't got a good grounding in Western philosophy or Islamic philosophy. They've read some books from, with all due respect, a white man, and they maybe have this inferiority complex. And this whole atheism thing is more of a social phenomenon, a psychological phenomenon rather than a deep grounded intellectual spiritual one. So I would advise them, just, you know, before it's too late, start asking the right questions and seeking the right answers. Now, how do you get these answers? Well, there's lots of mainstream nuanced scholars in Pakistan, but if you want a YouTube channel, this is the YouTube channel. Some amazing things are coming out on this channel.
Do subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe. It's all open policy with loving for others what you love for yourself, with mercy and compassion, with empathy. You're going to get answers to the problem of evil. You're going to get answers about morality. You're going to get answers about God's existence. You're going to get answers to scientism and science. You're going to get answers to these issues that, you know, people think are a challenge to religion, but in actual fact they're not when you understand them properly. It's going to talk about Islamic epistemology, so many beautiful things, spirituality, and at the end of the day, there's no excuse. So please focus here. Now, to Pakistani Muslims and youth in general, I envy them, I think, in some way. I'll tell you why. Because Pakistan is in a juncture point. It's the crossroads now. Something is going to happen in Pakistan. Something amazing. There's lots of youth in Pakistan.
Listen to that. This is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please repeat that.
There's lots of youth in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Something is going to happen. I think there's going to be an intellectual, social, and spiritual revival in Pakistan.
You believe so?
Absolutely. Because when I was there, I just felt they have love for the deen. Even people who had the identity markers of being a Muslim, like maybe hijab and jilbab, their knowledge wasn't that great. But they had such a zeal, such a passion, such a metaphysical love, if you like.
Subhanallah.
That, you know what, Allah will not, you know, will not ignore such a nation, man.
Inshallah.
I'm telling you, because the amount of love I saw for the deen there, and I think everything that they've experienced thus far with the problems and corruption, all of these things, this was maybe only a sign of Allah's love, just to sift you out, just to polish you a bit, you know. Because, you know, as per the hadith, that when Allah loves somebody, He tests them, right? A sign of His love is a test, is when He tests you. But a sign of us passing the test is how we react to the test. So Pakistan now must react by coming back to their tradition.
Inshallah.
Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loving Allah, being tolerant, taking care of all of humanity, becoming beacons of light for everybody. As the Prophet said, that the best of people are those who are most beneficial to mankind. To understand our tradition, to maybe revive the intellectual arguments that we have based on our classical tradition. You know, we have a very nuanced, powerful tradition. Study the deen, become great doctors and engineers as well, but also just, you know, internalize Islam spiritually. Just don't just memorize, but internalize, become that which you know, change your state of being, how you relate with yourself, how you relate with others, and how you relate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Islam is not just a belief. It's not like saying this is a microphone. Come on. You're saying there's no equivalence here. Islam transcends a belief from that point of view. Because belief in philosophy can be very mundane, and this is a microphone. Islam is a form of knowing that changes your heart, changes what you say, and how you relate with yourself and others, and how you relate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I pray Pakistan is gonna lead the world, I think.
Inshallah.
Yeah,
that's
intellectually,
that's a
spiritually.
big thing. I'm feeling
Habibi,
so happy to listen from him.
I believe in the next 5, 10, 15 years we're going to see amazing things, because there's lots of youth that are crying out for some change. And they're going to show how Islam is a compassionate tradition. It's also grounded in a rich intellectual tradition. It's tolerant. And it's there for the world to show the light of Islam. And I think that's what Pakistan's going to do, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
And final thing, follow him, follow the channel, please.
Yeah.
Follow,
subscribe,
please.
Subscribe, bell icon. Jazakallah khair, Hamza.
May Allah bless you.
Thank you very much for being on the channel, and I hope that we'll do the more videos with you.
Inshallah, absolutely.
Anytime in future soon, inshallah. So till the next video, I'll take your leave. Assalamu alaikum.